The way you describe what you just said, you believe the collegiate model will survive and thrive in a new guise. Was that?
Well, I guess I might characterize it by saying that, we believe in the collegiate model, and that part of that belief, the role of the student athlete is a priority, and that with a restructured NCAA and the ability of the 5 conferences to do some of the things we would like to do for student athletes, then I think we can have the collegiate model in the foreseeable future.
The whole idea that the lawsuits won't do. You feel y'all are still in control and will still be in control. The
lawsuits are the lawsuits, and as you know, I can't really comment on the lawsuits, but it's clear from all the things that surround collegiate athletics right now, Ivan, is that we're at a point of we're evolving, we're continuing to evolve, and that like anything else, you either are moving forward or moving backward. And some of the things that we have in mind that I outlined tonight for the student athlete is part of what we need to have the kind of collegiate model that we all want to preserve over the next period of time.
Okay.
You can pick the years.
Yeah, that's right.
Commissioner, what presents the greatest risk for the league, an 8-game schedule or a 9-game conference schedule?
Well, I don't think there's risk in either one. The question, and we have to decide on a format, and we're going to do that by the time we get to Destin. And we're evaluating 8 games or 9 games, 8 with permanent, 8 without permanent, 9 with a permanent, and 8 with either way. So our league has to decide that. Right now we still are operating under the current format, which is your 6 division games, and then you play 1 permanent and 1 rotator. So that's the current one. That's how the last schedules were built. So the question, our president said, well, you need to decide on your future format by the 2016 season. And so we have been working on that both as a conference office and with our athletic directors, and we're prepared to make that decision at least by Destin. I don't know what that decision will be. And one of the things you do learn right when you start to do this analysis, when you really get into it, is that there are advantages and disadvantages for each one of the models. There's no one that is all advantage, and there's no one that's all disadvantage. There's advantages and disadvantages for each.
When you're looking at those crucial factors, do you frame the problem a specific way? You hear from all the coaches, the ADs, all the presidents. Is there some way that there's a couple
personally?
Yes.
Well, thus far I have not done that. You can think back about being pushed or being pulled, right?
Well, last I heard, the popular account was that it was you and Nick were for 9 games, and the other 13 coaches were not.
I've read that.
Yeah.
I've never said.
Well, I know you well.
I never have said. I never have said what I favor.
Oh, okay.
I really haven't, and I don't plan on it.
No news tonight. No news tonight.
Do you feel as if part of the push is from the fact that the other leagues are moving to 9 games?
No. And I think you've covered the SEC almost your whole career, and you know that's not, the SEC. We try to make a decision what we think is best for us long term. There is a new element, though, in the mix that never existed before, and that is how the selection committee will determine who plays in the first 4 games. And strength of schedule will be, in fact, part of that. Now, when you start to analyze that, many of our schools play 9 games. Think about it.
Mhm.
I mean, Florida plays Florida State, South Carolina plays Clemson, Kentucky plays Louisville,
Georgia
Georgia plays Georgia Tech, and many of our schools have started playing in those neutral site games against a major opponent. So in the context of thinking about which format we're going to use, and in the context of the selection committee, one thing that has to be factored in is that some of our teams already play those 9 games.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope the selection committee doesn't get to the place where they say 9 games is who you play.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're take out South Carolina, if they're playing Clemson plus a conference schedule, that's a pretty good 9-game schedule.
Yeah.
Right? Florida's playing Florida State, so all of that has to be factored into how you think about it. So it's not, for us, it's just not simple to say 9 games is better than 8. And when we lay that all out, I mean, there are a lot of advantages and a lot of disadvantages for every one of the formats that we're looking at.
Is there a concern how they will apply that strength of schedule metric to the Southeastern Conference, the selection
because
committee?
If you think about the schedule being 2/3 a conference schedule and 1/3 non-conference schedule, we got plenty of strength of schedule. Plus the people that we're playing out, and almost all of our schools are playing, at least playing that 9th game against one of the 5s or one of the 4s, so to speak. So it's in that context that we've got to decide whether we want to play 9 or play 8. And then there's a whole nother discussion that's unrelated, and that is whether you have a permanent, you just rotate everybody.
Commissioner, during your address, you said one of your proudest achievements was achieving diversity in the SEC, and recently here, Derek Gordon, one of the basketball players, came out as gay, and he said he was influenced by Michael Sam of Missouri. Do you feel that's maybe the next area of growth within the NCAA and those types of announcements?
I don't know. I don't know if it's an area of growth, but I wish I brought it with me. I issued a statement on Michael Sam in saying that it was a very courageous thing to do, in support of him as a student athlete. And I think the same would apply to this young man. I don't know all the ins and outs of this one, but when Michael Sam announced, we issued a statement in support of his ability to make the kind of decisions he needs to make in his life, and reminded people that he was a great football player, and that's what we're concerned about.
If the Northwestern players vote no, which I hear is a distinct possibility, do we just all, what's changed if they vote no?
That's a great question. In terms of tonight, the way I couch my remarks, I was careful to say that what I was interested in is what the student athletes were interested in getting, not how they got it. Because if you look at the vision that I outlined tonight, I think you'll find if you compare that to what's been asked by them, there'll be a lot of similarities. So the question isn't so much about, I don't think we should have employees, so that affects my opinion about unions. But to me, the focus is really on the substance. What is it that we need to do for these student athletes to maintain the collegiate model in light of the request to unionize, in light of the litigation, in light of all the things that are out there. So sometimes I think that, there's the old saying about you try to deal with things you can control, and some things you can't. And one of the things that I think the 565 schools want to be able to at least control, as a group, are the kinds of things that the student athletes are actually asking for.
Commissioner, as the chairperson of the NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Committee, you have a lot of wisdom influencing committees. What is a fair recusal policy?
I haven't heard, the selection committee has met to talk about recusal, and they're going to make a report to the management committee, which are the commissioners, not next week, the week after next. And so before I just go ahead and espouse it, I know what the recusal policy was on the basketball committee, because I stepped out of the room a lot. You know, when you're a commissioner, you can't be in the room when any of your schools are being talked
Right.
about. So I understand it, but I haven't heard yet from the, and I don't want to, you know, I guess what they've decided that they want to recommend to us. And so it may be fine. It may be that we want to think about some other things. So that's a little bit ahead of me at this point.
Yeah, because they don't really technically, do they technically represent conferences, or they
No.
just, yeah.
Well, you know, the 5 conferences have a representative
Right.
on there, you know. But I think the underlying philosophy, we hope, is the same as the basketball committee. You know, we used to talk about leave your hat at the door.
Yeah,
You know, you've been asked to be on the committee because we believe in your integrity, we believe in your honesty, we believe in your knowledge, we believe that you know the game well enough. And it's a composite. You know, everybody doesn't have to be a coach. It's a composite. It's a composite judgment made by individuals who will make their own. So the philosophy is the same. I would hope that everybody's in there, so talking about what's the best thing, what's right, and what's best for college football, which are the 4 best. For the SEC, you know, what I had always hoped for, which came to fruition, is they just pick the best teams. It's not complicated, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to pick them, but you don't need a whole lot of conditions and requirements. You just pick the best teams in your judgment.
leave your hat at the door. At basketball, that was your current employer, so alma mater or prior employers, didn't matter. Do you remember?
No, I don't think we got into that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, there's no end to it. You know,
Exactly.
you know, first you have to have integrity. You know, and I don't know what this committee's going to, you know, those are questions that I don't know the answer
Okay.
to. You know,
Yeah.
but, you know, it can go to a point where, you know, nobody can be on there.
Yeah.
What's your greatest concern about this selection committee, Commissioner? In
I don't have a
reference to-
concern, you know, I really don't. I mean, I think, I don't. I mean, they're great people, they're good people. They were, you know, we unanimously supported each and every one of them, and, you know, my concern is hoping our teams play so that they're the best teams in the country. You know, that's my hope.
There's been some talk about playing an ACC team, possibly matching up.
There's been a lot of talk about a lot of things, including that. But we, you know, we play a lot of them now. You know, we play, 4 or 5 of them now. But we've not entered into any kind of agreement or anything.
Is that still something that's could be brought to fruition, or is it something you think might be?
I don't know. You know, again, it goes back to thinking about, you know, where are we? Who, you know, I mean, I think our people like the freedom, and we've been good about scheduling. So, you know, every time John and I get together, we have a cup of coffee and we talk about what if, and then we go back and time goes by and we get down, have another cup of coffee and we say what if. That's what it's so far.
Has anybody roughed out if your thoughts about what you want to provide student athletes come to fruition? Has anybody roughed out the
Well,
cost?
I haven't. I can't, yeah, I know about everybody. You know, there's another step in this process, too, that gets overlooked a little bit, is that assuming the NCAA board votes for this autonomy, then we have to create our own legislative process as to how we would then bring forth legislation and vote on legislation that affect the 5. And so that's the piece that's now being, you know, that we're looking at. And you'll see you'll see a proposal like that when you look at the documents I mentioned to you.
Yeah.
You know, I think it was 6C if you look, because there's a lot of stuff. So there's 2 pieces, you know, the one is the principles that you want to put into play, and then the question is how do you actually put it into play as we act. Now, if it's only 65 institutions, we can have a very different kind of process involving a lot more people than maybe is possible, in a larger organization.
Do you have any idea how long that'll take to set that
Not
up?
long, not long.
So you could be up and running for this academic year, this coming academic
Well,
year?
if the board puts it in, if the board votes for what we hope it'll vote for, it'd be August. You need, several months. But
Yeah.
hopefully by January we can have something worked out. I mean, it's a pretty aggressive schedule.
Yeah. Do you foresee an old style NCAA convention
I could see,
that would be
I could envision,
understandable?
I could envision, where you could have a lot of people involved in the 65
Yeah.
institution group. It might have a little old-fashioned flavor to it.
Yeah.
Commissioner, what's the level of transparency we'd like to see from the College Football Selection Committee?
Well, I think it'll be important. We felt that was one of the hallmarks one of the characteristics that was important in the development of this process. And I think you'll see that. I think within reason you'll see it. But transparency is an important part of this. I think one of the criticisms of the old way was people didn't quite really understand how the computers did all that things. So one of the great things about the committee is that somebody has to stand up at the end of the day and say what they did and why they did it, and answer the questions, just like the chair of the basketball committee has to do. So, you folks that are covering college sports will have an opportunity to find out answers to questions that you weren't able to really get answered in the old system.
You think it'll be just at the end when they select the teams? You don't think there's going to be as much through the process itself, when they come out with the polls?
You're asking the wrong guy, actually. I need to call up Jeff Long, because you really need to, your questions really need to be asked to the committee. And what I think, I don't know. I haven't been the committee doesn't meet they don't invite me to their meetings, by the way. So I really don't know. We'll find out. You come in April come later next week to the meetings. I don't know the answer to a lot of those questions. I just trust the people. They have integrity. They have knowledge. They're the right kind of people. They have the right composite chemistry. What they're going to do, how they're going to do it. We're going to find out more about it next week, the week after next.
I had an ex-athlete ask me this question. He wanted to know, you have partial scholarships for some of the non-revenue sports, and when they come from out of state, they have to...
Do you know Greg Sankey? Call Greg.
Okay.
You're in the weeds a little bit more than I get into, so that's something you want to talk to Greg about. And I don't know if those decisions have been made. It's all part of financial aid piece is very complicated. A lot has to be done, so I can't give you the kind of answer you're looking for tonight.
My last thing is, under this new governance model, what would the role of the Indianapolis hierarchy?
Well, we're going to be in Division One.
Yeah.
The hallmark of, I should have said this earlier. We started out in our vision with the following, saying we want to be in Division One, we want to participate in Division One, we want to be part of the basketball tournament, we want to share the revenue like we have shared the revenue, we want to be a part of the championship. So it's not a different. It's just there are certain legislative matters that we would like to have autonomy over, but we want to be part of the Division One. So they still have that huge role to play.
Okay.
Just one last question about SEC basketball, men's basketball. You're trying to make some improvements. Do you have something on the agenda for next year? You have 2 teams in the Final Four, 3 teams in the Sweet 16. Is there something that you saw this season that would help?
I'm still in the afterglow of all. I'm not going to worry about next year yet. The tournament was a great result for us, given not the criticism, but given how people have portrayed our basketball. And when you had a team in a play-in that goes as far as Tennessee went, that's quite extraordinary. And 2 teams in the Final Four for a league that is known for another sport is pretty sensational. So I'm still going to enjoy that before I worry about next year. Thank you,
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good to see you as always.
Good to see you.
Great seeing you.